Good morning, everyone. Let's get started on our notes today. We're doing operations of functions. Operations is your typical add, subtract, multiply, divide. And so that's what we're going to be working on here. All of your operations, sum, difference, quotient, and product, add, subtract, multiply, divide. Okay, very simple how these things work. If you want to put in here, add, subtract, multiply, divide, that's fine. Although they're not very difficult. Now, what we're going to put in these boxes, something that might be worth it if you're taking notes at home, f plus g of x. Okay, one of the weirdest things we have to deal with functions is a whole bunch of f of x stuff, g of x stuff, and the number one thing is to not be bothered by this, to not be worried by this, is that these are simply the name of the function. Okay, and so if I come over here, and I'm going to say that we've got, m of x, all that this is saying is that I'm going to call it the letter m, and it has a variable of x. So that if I see x, I should know that it's a variable. Okay, the bottom line, though, is that this doesn't really mean anything. Okay, it might as well just be a big letter m. So don't worry about this x. Don't be confused by this x. This has nothing to do with multiplied by x. Okay, this is m of x. In other words, the function called m with the variable x. And so when we see all of these, this looks a little bit different as well. We've got f plus g of x, f minus g of x. And all that this is it's, in some ways, I don't know that it's actually easier, but it's the same thing as if you have f of x plus g of x. Okay, my handwriting is actually good to start out today. We just basically smash these two things together to make it look like this. It's all the same thing. Okay, so if you see f minus g, it's literally just f minus g. Right? We don't need to overcomplicate it too much. It's all that we're doing over here is just trying to only have to write this x once. Again, it's just mathematicians trying to be lazy, mathematicians trying to avoid writing stuff. So f times g is just f times g. Right? One thing that's important is we're always going to use a single dot for the multiply sign because we're going to have lots of x's around. And if we use an x for the multiply sign, it'll get really confusing. What's a variable? What's a multiply? F divided by g is very similar. Okay, it's just going to be f of x divided by g of x. So this is probably a super easy piece of cake. I mean, this isn't really difficult at all. This is just showing you if you see something funky like that, you can spread it out if you want. Now, what we're going to get is we're going to get a question where they're going to give us f. I'll use red for f, and g. And again, this f of x basically means nothing except for, just call this an f. That's all it means. The x doesn't mean anything. Don't overcomplicate it. We got code name f. We got code name g. And we just need to do f plus g. So it is literally this easy. You write your f. You write your g. You add them up. That's it. That's the whole question. We've got to do a little bit of combining like terms. So we got to see that this is 3x and minus 2x. So that's just going to be a regular old x. We've got negative 7 and positive 13, which is going to be 6. And that's it. I mean, that is f plus g. It is literally just the addition of two different functions that we've had at the same time. So for the most part, what we're going to be doing is adding two functions, or maybe subtracting them, or maybe multiplying them, or maybe dividing them. And that is the whole story. Now, one thing that's really important here, you guys are very smart students, and you will not mess up the addition part. Probably, you're going to make two common mistakes. And the first mistake that you might make is it'll say f and g, and you'll just use like g and h. right? Which sounds so stupid, like I would never do that, but it happens, okay? So your number one priority is make sure if it says F and G that you're gonna grab the new F and the new G, right? Because a lot of times with these worksheets, we'll get to a new section and they'll give us new F's and G's, and you don't wanna use the old stuff. So I'll do F in red. That would be x squared minus 8x plus 4. I'll do G in this little aqua color, 4x minus 3, and I need to add them together. Piece of cake. X squared is all by itself. There's no common terms with x squared. I've got negative 8 and plus 4, which is going to make negative 4. I've got positive 4 and negative 3. It's going to make plus 1. That's it. That is f of x plus g of x. Piece of cake. Now, the only other mistake that you'll make is on subtraction. Okay, we've done so many different subtraction questions this year, and I've warned you every time, subtraction is not difficult, but subtraction is the one that you're going to mess up. Let's see, we got a new function here, h, so I'll use orange for that, x plus 2. Now what we need to do is we need to subtract h away from f. You know, what we've got here basically is it's just f of x minus h of x. Now when we subtract this is the mistake everybody makes. They do the minus of the x and the adding of the 2. But if we need to subtract h, we need to make sure that we're subtracting the x and we are subtracting the 2. Okay? So I don't mean to overcomplicate this for you. Basically, you're going to need to distribute this minus sign to both of these to make sure that you subtract them both. So that would be x squared negative 8x minus an x. So that would be down to negative 9x. And then this would have to be a positive 4 minus positive 2. And so what we would end up with here is 2. And again, that's easy to do. I mean, that is really easy to do. You just need to be careful. You just need to make sure that you slow down, that you take it super serious, that this minus sign gets handed out to both of these terms. Right? And sometimes you might even have a triple term. You got to hand out the minus to all three. It happens. We've got a multiply question now. So our multiply question is h times g. So make sure you get the order right as well. H comes first, which is x plus 2. G comes second, which is 4x minus 3. And I need to multiply these together. Now, how do you multiply two binomials together? You use FOILing, of course. So it's all old stuff here. 4x squared minus 3x plus 8x minus 6. All right, just a little bit of FOILing. We need to combine those middle two terms. And our answer would be 4x squared plus 5x minus 6. Again, hopefully this is just so easy. All we've done is add things and FOIL things. That's it. Now, dividing can be pretty tricky, okay? Because dividing typically is going to be a long process of dividing. And if you want to actually divide two polynomials, and you want to do something like this, x plus 2, divided by, and you want to figure out what the actual division is, it's going to be really difficult. And that's something that you're going to learn more in a math analysis class. In Algebra 2, if it says f divided by h, all we need to do is put the f on top of the h. Okay? So with division, step 1, you just got to stack them up. Okay? Just put one of them on top of the other one. So f goes on top of h, that's fine. F is x squared minus 8x plus 4. And in the bottom, we have h, which is orange, x plus 2. Now with division, if you add two polynomials together, if you subtract two polynomials together, if you multiply two polynomials together, you're always going to end up with polynomials, right? So all of your answers here should look like a polynomial, a polynomial, a polynomial. These happen to be trinomial, trinomial, trinomial. You'll see some answers where the answers are binomials and stuff, but whenever you do division, we are not going to be a polynomial anymore, right? This is no longer a nice, easy polynomial. This is actually a rational function where we have x's on top and x's on bottom. And the problem with rational functions is that you are not allowed to divide by 0, okay? Remember that we have a vertical asymptote for this function. And that vertical asymptote is where the denominator equals 0. And so for these questions, we're pretty much done. But what we need to do is we need to say, here's what you wanted, but don't let x be whatever number would make that bottom 0, right? And so we're not scared of 5 because 5 plus 2 is 7, and that's not scary. We're not scared of 3 because 3 plus 2 is 5, and that's not scary. We're not scared of 0 because 0 plus 2 is equal to 2. What we're scared of is -2 because right here is where you have a vertical asymptote. Now, the first time that you see that, that seems crazy, but just a reminder, all we've done is literally put the two functions on top of each other and then set the bottom equal to 0, okay? So basically our two steps are stack and then but, comma, bot not equal to 0, right? It's just like a little warning. I always like to remind people, you know, if somebody hires you to like build a fence in their backyard and you build a fence in their backyard, but when you're back there, you spot like a snake nest or something, you probably need to tell them about this dangerous, you know, cave that's in their backyard or something like that. And so you do what they asked, but you also need to give them a warning about what they need to be scared of. So that's what we've done. We'll get more examples of that, right? Number 5, h divided by g. This is a really, really, really quick and painless process, right? First thing is we need h to go on top of g. So we take our h, x plus 2. We take our g, which is 4x minus 3, and then we're done. The only thing that we need to do, I like to give myself a box that fits a little bit extra so that it reminds myself, is I need to say, but don't let x be, and then I'm going to look at the bottom, okay? My bottom is 4x minus 3 equal to 0. I'm going to add the 3. 4x equals 3. I'm going to divide by 4. X is equal to 3/4. And so at 3/4, we're going to have a vertical asymptote. And so we need to not be 3/4. And all that is here's your fraction that you wanted. Just be careful of your 3/4 little problem there. And finishing up, we've got number 6. It's f times g. That would be x squared minus 8x plus 4 times g, which would be 4x minus 3. And we need to multiply these, so we're going to have to FOIL them. Now, maybe the first time that you've ever seen this in algebra is that you have a triple trinomial times a double binomial, and you need to multiply these two things, and you need to FOIL them, but it's not just a 2 by 2, it's a 3 by 2, okay? A little reminder here that FOILing is just a way for you to remember that you need to make sure that x gets multiplied by both, and you need to you need to remember that 2 gets multiplied by both. That's all you're doing. You're just trying to multiply everything by everything, okay? You got 2 and 2, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4 left over because it's 2 times 2 and 2 times 2. So down here, if we've got a triple times a double, if we've got a trinomial times a binomial, all we need to do is multiply the first one by both, and then the second one by both, and then the third one by both. So let's do this. X squared times 4x is going to be 4x cubed. X squared times negative 3 is going to be negative 3x squared. So that is the first term handled, and now we're just going to move to the next term, right? We'll do the middle term times both. That's going to be negative 32x squared plus 24x. And now we just need to finish up. We need to do this last one times both. That would be 16x, and that would be negative 12. So this is, it's the same thing as a FOIL. We've just made sure we multiplied everything by everything. This is probably the easiest way to do it. Worth pointing out, this is a 3 times a 2, and so we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 total terms, okay? If you multiply a trinomial times a trinomial, a 3 times a 3, you're going to have 9 terms. Now what we need to do is combine these, right? Because we've got these 2 bits that can be added together. 4x cubed, negative 3x squared, negative 32x squared would be negative 35. 24 and 16 makes 40. And minus 12. There you go. So maybe the most difficult thing that we've done today is multiply a trinomial times a binomial. Maybe the most difficult thing we've done. Now, under the back of the paper, the only thing left that we're going to talk about is how to do these questions. And these questions also can really confuse students. But they're asking a very easy thing, okay? So what this is saying is normally we have f plus g of x. But the x is replaced with a negative 2. And so what this is saying is do your f plus g and replace the x's with a negative 2. So what we need to do is we got some new f's, we got some new g's. I'll use blue and pink. Sure. So we need to do f plus g, which is x plus 7. We need to add them together, and we need to replace that x with a negative 2. Now, we have 2 choices, okay? We can go right now and put the negative 2 into all the x's, or we can wait until we simplify this a bit and then put it in, okay? It's not going to make a difference in the answer. It will just kind of determine how you go about solving the question. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and pretend like the negative 2 is not there, and then we'll put it in later. Okay, so I've got 2x squared. I'm going to have to combine the minus x and the plus x. So that's just going to be 0x. And then the minus 12 and the plus 7 is going to be minus 5. Now, this would be the answer if it was an x inside here. But I've been replaced with a negative 2, and so now I need to do 2 times x squared, which is a negative 2. That would be 2 times 4, because negative 2 squared is a positive 4, minus 5. That would be 8 minus 5. That would be 3. So something that's worth mentioning is that if you have your x's replaced with a number, you should not have any x's in your answer because all the x's are gone. All the x's are replaced, okay? So all of these questions which have numbers replacing the x's should have very simple answers like 3 or maybe 10 or maybe 45 or maybe 7/2. Now, one thing that's nice, though, is that because this is just asking you to plug in a number, that's something that a computer could very easily do, right? To just type in a number. And so we can use Desmos to solve these questions for us, okay? We need to do f minus g. We need to plug in an 8 to both f and g. What we can do is we can go to Desmos. Now, the first thing that we need to do in Desmos is we need to type in what is f and what is g. Okay, so that would be 2x squared minus x minus 12, 2x squared minus x minus 12. I always double check. And that would be x plus 7. So these are our two functions. But we need to do more than this. Okay, we need to make sure that Desmos knows what we're going to call them, right? So I need to also go in there and type this f of x stuff. Now this basically means nothing except for the fact that now Desmos knows that if I type in f, it knows I'm talking about this f, right? So for example, I could do f of x plus 3, and it would be the red graph plus 3. So it would be the red graph up 3, right? So now Desmos knows what f is. And I could even do f of x with a 2 swapped out for the x, and you can see right over here, it will calculate what that is for me, okay? And so what I'm going to do is now I've got my f and my g. I'm going to go over here, and I just need to type into Desmos what this is. Now, unfortunately, Desmos is not smart enough to handle it in this form, okay? What we need to do, if we try it, parentheses f minus g of 8, Desmos doesn't really know what it's talking about, okay? What we need to do is type it like f of 8 minus g of 8. Right? Desmos doesn't like the lazy way of doing it. Desmos only likes the long way of doing it. And there's your answer, 93. That's the whole question. We can just go over here. We can put 93, box it up. We're done. And this would have been a question that would have taken us some time for sure, because we would have had to subtract the g, which we would have had to be extra careful about. We would have had to plug in an 8 into the squared, which would be 64, multiply it by 2, which would be 128. This would have been a complicated question. Desmos, done. That's the whole thing, okay? And this will work for all of it, right? We can go to the next one, which is f times g of -1. We can leave f and g in there. Just backspace it a little bit. F, let's see here. I can use my keyboard. Hold up. F times g of x, but I need a -1 in there. Boom, 54. That's it. You can go in here. We can type 54. Oh, -54. And so Desmos will solve all of these for you as long as they have a number that they're asking for, right? Up here, they're asking for the general, what is the equation that we could use again and again? Down here, they want a specific number answer. And so that's what Desmos can do for you for sure, okay? F divided by G of 5. You guys know what we're doing already, right? It's F of, 5 over G of 5, something like that. Sorry, I was distracted. Yep, f of 5 divided by g of 5. There you go. 2.75. Now, one thing that you can do in Desmos we haven't talked about before is if you're doing a multiple choice question and the answers are written as fractions, over here, by where the 3 is, you can see this is a fraction divided by a fraction. If you press that, it will convert your answer into a fraction. Okay, you can click it and it'll go back and forth. So that's pretty valuable if you're using multiple choice questions. So 11/4 or 2.75. I mean, whatever. 11/4 or 2.75. Right, same thing. So that's it. Again, the hardest thing that we had to do was FOIL a triple times a double, a trinomial times a binomial, which really wasn't that bad. Just make sure you take your time. Remember that the 2 mistakes that you'll make are either using the wrong functions or messing up subtraction. So with subtraction, be extra sure you multiply both of those by a negative, or that you just flip their signs, however you want to put it. That's it, though. If you have a question with the actual number here, Desmos will do it for you. That's it. Hope this helps.